Thursday, April 3rd, 2025. Got it, off to a good start. Anyone who's been watching week after week knows I've been having just a miserable time with YouTube Live through my laptop and external monitor, so I'm going right to the cell phone, so hopefully that just takes everything simple and easy. Okay, let's start off with some shout outs. First shout out. This is actually, they're all really cool, but this one is from Jason A. So we just did our heavy day, that miserable heavy day yesterday. 3 max effort sets of front squat at 70% of your 1 rep max. Full rest between each one of those max efforts. And then 1 final max effort set at 50% of your 1 rep max. Disgusting and beautiful. Melanie, how are you? And this is from Jason A regarding that. So he says, historically, I'm not a strong individual. My engine has always been my strength. I looked up what I was front squatting in just before Linchpin. I had a workout that was finding a heavy 5. That heavy 5 that I found was 155 pounds. Okay, that's pre-Linchpin there. This morning, I did that same weight, 155 pounds, for 15 reps. So what was his 5 is now his 15. So congratulations, Jason. And then he says he went ahead and did 170 pounds for 12 reps. So, wow, he says, cool, Linchpin most definitely works, thanks. Very, very cool, awesome, but you're clearly putting in the work. Newsflash, programming only works if the people trust the process and do it. So everyone out there who's having success, hats off to you, because you show up every day and you do the work. That's why it works. Okay, this one's cool. Melanie, your quads are feeling it right now. I don't know what's going on. I don't want to curse myself. I actually feel okay right now. Like, shockingly good. I felt worse the other week when we did the 10 down to 1 with the ring rows and the burpees and the L sits. Like, that wrecked me for 3 to 4 days, but I actually feel pretty good, so we'll see. All right, this next shout out is from Jeff D. And this is when we programmed Amanda the other day, 975 of a ring muscle up and a squat snatch at 135 for the guys. And Jeff says, I know I shouldn't feel this way, but sometimes complacency breeds laziness. I'm turning 43 this summer, and I'm just happy that I can still successfully hit this workout as prescribed. I'm not breaking any records, obviously, but to do it without 1 failed rep made me super happy. I did 3s and 2s on the ring muscle-ups. I did singles on the snatches. Yeah, my joints take longer to warm up for these complexes, but all good. I just want to put things in perspective, right? That workout, Amanda, yeah, sure, it's a quote-unquote simple couplet, but it's arguably, if not one of the most complicated upper body gymnastic movements that we do. Ring muscle-ups, paired with the most complicated thing you can do with a barbell, the full snatch. So, Jeff, to a degree, I don't care what your time is. The mere fact that you're about to turn 43 years old and you could do 975 of ring muscle-ups and squat snatch, that's absolutely incredible. That's fantastic. You are a gladiator compared to all of your peers walking around. Get a cohort of people in their early 40s, your friends, at the bus stop and you're dropping your kid off. Get the other dads together, tell them to meet you at their gym, meet you at, at your garage, and do ring muscle-ups and squat snatches and see how many people can do a single rep of any of those. So regardless of what your time is, you're superhuman. And that's the kind of the point too I try to get across to everybody. Not that everyone's a beast when they're 25. Because if we look at, I'll speak for my own country, if we look at America, that's certainly not the case. But I think it's fair to say that there's far more people with good muscle mass, good physical capability, body composition, lean. At 25, there's more of those people than there are at 35. At 35, there's more than there are at 45. So my point being, if you are just consistent and you actually hang in this game for years and decades with every like year that goes by, more people quit and drop off. More people quit and drop off, and there's fewer and fewer remaining. And the mere fact that you're still in the game, you're winning. You're a superhero. And this last one is from Missy T, who just hit her 1 year mark with Linchpin. She says, "Hey Linchpin, I've never posted here before." This was in the private Facebook group. "I've never posted in here before, but I told myself that at the 1 year mark, I'd hop in here and say hi. First of all, astonishing discipline. You gave yourself a 1 year goal of not posting in there, and you did. I just want to pop in here and say hi. I want to thank Coach Pat for building this amazing community and the best training program out there. I've tried just about every popular CrossFit program available. I've absolutely fallen in love with Linchpin, and I've learned so much from listening to the Linchpin Conversation podcast. My fitness and mindset have improved significantly since joining, and I've been impressed with how motivating and supportive the entire Linchpin community is. Feeling grateful to be here, excited for another year." So very, very cool. Awesome. Congrats on 1 year. Okay, let's get into the questions. We get a lot of good stuff. I see Kenji says your quads are feeling it. Again, I don't want to knock on wood. I'm feeling okay right now, which I don't want to jinx it, but we'll see. All right, so let's start with the questions from the Facebook group. From Andrew M. How do you determine the thresholds for the super fitness robot times and the more likely times? I know we've covered this before, but it's been a bit. Long story short, through years and years and years and years of writing these workouts, observing them, and seeing how long in general things take athletes on a sliding scale of beginner, intermediate, and advanced. And through all of those observations, I just started compiling obnoxiously long and detailed lists of, generally speaking, 10 movements of this take this long, as 10 reps of this take this long, 10 reps of this take this long. This distance usually takes an average athlete X amount of seconds to cover, or row, or bike, or whatever. And that gave me a general baseline, if you were piecing different movements together in different rep schemes, to get a broad idea of the range that time could take. I then also have figured out over the years kind of a multiple that I apply to that baseline that gives generally speaking, a time that would be like capable, astonishingly fast, but capable for, quite a ferocious beast of fitness, and one that's a more generous time that gives a greater segment of the population the opportunity to achieve that workout and still preserve the stimulus there. So I've got all of those different, every movement that you can think of, everything that you can think of written down in a document gets updated every now and then multiples that I have determined and then stress tested in the community and found them to be good. Nothing's perfect, every now and then might be off by a little bit, but generally speaking, those goal times seem to work really, really well for most people, most circumstances, most of the time. Whoa, okay. These next two questions are kind of linked, so I'll kind of tackle them together. And one of the answers will probably be unsatisfying. So Corey C says, congrats, you are the new owner of CrossFit, like the entire thing, CrossFit Inc. What's the first big change you implement to the sport and the biggest new change you implement at the games? And then Nick B wrote, now that the CrossFit Open is over, somebody has made you're in charge of programming the Open. What do you do for Open programming? What would it look like for the top 1%? Do you stick with the 3 weeks? Do you go back to 5? Yeah, interesting. And then you mentioned, so let me tackle those first. I'm the new owner of CrossFit. What am I going to do? Here's the unsatisfying part. I've thought about this more than I should. I'm in no danger of being the new owner of CrossFit, that's for sure. There's a lot of this, anyway, I'm not going to get into it too much, but what's interesting is there's a lot of work, in my humble opinion, that should be done to get CrossFit back on track. And I don't think what has to happen is obvious to somebody who has just studied classic businesses at Stanford Business School, achieved their MBA. Hey, generally speaking, people go into distressed businesses and they do A, B, C, and D, and then they revive that business. And CrossFit, I think, is a really unique beast compared to other just traditional businesses, which is why I think it is a bit of a mystery for some classically trained business folks as to what to do to get the ship back on track. If you think the ship is even off track, I guess that's a personal opinion, and I've got my thoughts for sure. But we'll see what happens. I'm not going to be running CrossFit. I will be a humble observer, and then if big changes come down the road, maybe I can chime in on as to whether or not I think those are good, bad, or indifferent. If I was programming the open, I don't have like open workouts that I would tell you what I would do for 3 or 4 or 5 weeks right now, because that would take a very long time to do properly, and I couldn't just piece that together from yesterday to today. I guess the first question you would have to ask yourself is, do you feel the open as it is right now needs to change? Because what's the point of the open? Okay, it's a community event, but it does also serve a purpose, right? And it should, that screening step to start to find the fittest people on earth. So the question becomes, is it not serving that purpose? And if it is serving that purpose, then maybe nothing needs to change. But it should be something which is highly participatory, allows a lot of people to play, but at the same time pre-screens to have the best of the best rise to the top. And it should have, generally speaking, logistics-wise and gear-wise, accessibility to a very wide range of people in their garages, affiliates, or whatever it happens to be. And ideally, it would be fun and effective at the same time. And generally speaking, more tests give you more data. The fewer the tests, the more difficult it is. And so maybe that's why I know that some people are like really love that it's 3 weeks now, because they don't have to change what they're doing for 4 or 5 weeks. They can get back on track. Some people wish that it was 5 weeks. I don't know if there's a consensus on that, if it's really split. I don't spend a ton of time diving into those weeds. But if I was to do that, it would have to be a dedicated sit down and analysis of, where are we? Is it actually serving the purpose that it's supposed to? If it is actually serving the point that it's supposed to, then it'd be weird to change it. But if analysis found out that it indeed was not, then yeah, something would have to change there. And then Nick mentioned a great article from Greg back in the day, the 2000 article, How Fit Are You? Really cool, fun article. Thanks for bringing that up. I hadn't looked at that in a while. I remember reading it. Those are very cool, fun tests that he has there. And then the Linchpin tests. The Linchpin tests that we have, those are just Linchpin benchmark workouts. If you go to CrossFitLinchpin.com, I think you click on workouts, click on tests. With so many classic CrossFit workouts having names to them, for the Linchpin workouts, I just didn't want to give them people's names, and so just to be different, I'd label them as tests, but they're just Linchpin benchmark workouts. Test 1, 2, 3, 4, those are just our benchmark workouts to cover ideally short to medium to long, very light to very heavy, simple movements to complex movements, and everything in between. Let's see. Dee Dee. Last year, her friend Jody and I did Test 13 together, Linchpin Test 13 on a camping trip. Wow, that's some dedication. We actually had fun doing it together, and we're wondering if you can say when Test 13 is going to be scheduled this year. We want to time another camping trip for the test. Oh my goodness. And Jody says it'll have to be a campground with showers. Yes. So Linchpin Test 13 is one of the Linchpin benchmarks, like I just mentioned there. And Test 13 is the longest test that we have. People are crazy. They love these grinders. It is a 400-meter run, 20 burpees, 400-meter run, 19 burpees, 400-meter run, 18 burpees, all the way down to 400-meter run, 1 burpee. And ideally, you do it in a weight vest. So you wind up doing about 5 miles of running and about 210 burpees. And we do that once a year, just kind of, I don't know how it happened as a tradition, but it has happened. And what was I just going to say? It is, we did it last year in September. So I tend to think we'll probably do it again this year in September. So that's when I would kind of plan on. I don't have the exact date we'll do it yet, but I'm going to try to keep it around the same time every year. So I would plan on doing it in September. And I'll try to find some sort of cool swag that we can have if you do it. The swag is always the tough part. If any Linchpin members have an idea for what the swag should be, post them in the BTWB Facebook, Linchpin Squad, BTWB, or the private Facebook group. Okay. This member posted anonymously in Facebook, which, you know what? Maybe potentially you're new to Linchpin. And again, hey, whatever you're comfortable with, but trust me when I tell you this, you don't have to worry about being embarrassed and posting something in the Facebook group. You're good to go. You're around good people. But this anonymous member posted anonymously and says, I'm posting anonymously because I'm embarrassed. So I guess my point is you don't have to be embarrassed, my friend. I've been doing CrossFit since about 2010, and heavy squats just don't do me any good. Multiple coaches and therapists were trying to help me with my quote unquote butt wink and chest leaning forward. They told me to put plates under my heels, gave me ankle mobility, things like that. Nothing ever worked, and my low back always hurts afterwards. I know Coach Pat says that a heavy day is important, but I've been finding excuses to switch to the limited equipment option on heavy days, which I like. Give me all the burpees, running, box jumps, and double unders. I just can't squat heavy. Can I still become a ferocious animal? I really like this question a lot. So, anyway, Anonymous, short answer yes, you can still become a ferocious animal. 100%. I have zero doubt about that. There's a difference between what's real, like what you can do. Like, be great if you had no limitations. How amazing would that be? I have limitations. I would love to have no limitations. I have terrible, awful, stupid shoulders that don't allow me to do anything overhead. That limits me. Absolutely. I have to work around that all the time. That's my real situation. What would my optimal situation be? I never had any motorcycle wrecks, never did anything stupid in the military. My shoulders work great. That's not the hand that I was dealt. And much like yourself, anytime I tend to bump into somebody that's a body work or physical, whatever, everyone's always trying to fix my shoulders. They've been trying to fix my shoulders for 20 years. Nothing has ever worked. I've pretty much given up hope that these are just my shoulders. And so it sounds like you're down that road as well. Everyone's always trying to fix your squat or fix your ankle mobility and nothing seems to work. That sucks, but I feel you. I'm right there with you. So, what would optimally, like to optimize your fitness, like maximally? Yeah, you'd be able to squat heavy. But if that is painful or potentially injurious to you, that doesn't make any sense. And if we're actually have come to the conclusion that it just ain't gonna get any better. Okay, let's just make it sounds like you're there. So, because you usually have to give this caveat like, are you trying everything to fix the problem? Then if you fix the problem, you can't squat heavy. So yes, if you can fix the problem, fix the problem, right? But let's make the assumption that it ain't fixing. Okay, all right, so that's the situation that we're dealt. With this situation, can you still become a ferocious beast of fitness? Yes. Will you be the most ferocious beast that you could be if you could squat heavy? No. Will you most likely ever notice it in real life? No. Because real life is probably not going to look like a powerlifting competition with a 1 rep max back squat in there. So, can you develop strong legs, strong below parallel strength without squatting heavy? That if we're just looking to be capable and competent for whatever real life throws at us, that we'll be okay? 100%. 100%. Okay. So, and I feel confident saying that, I mean, not to be that like that old school, you know, somebody talking about the good old days in high school. It's just so annoying. What is that from Napoleon Diamond? I could throw that football over the mountain. Right, let it die. Okay, but useful to this, so I'll bring it up. Why do I feel so confident saying like, okay, you can't squat heavy. Will you still be ready for anything that life can throw at you? I did not know about CrossFit many years ago when I was in the military. I wish that I did. And so the training that we did, physical training when I was in the military, was just a lot of long distance running, a lot of obstacle courses, tons of calisthenics like push-ups, pull-ups, dips, sit-ups, flutter kicks, things like that. And the lifting that we did in the gym was just good old bro sesh that I grew up with. Chest and tri, back and bi, isolation movements. Yeah, you do the leg press and leg curl and stuff like that, but no one did deadlifts. Nobody did cleans. Nobody did barbell back squats. Like, it just didn't do that. It was isolation movements, machine-based movements. And so I never squatted heavy. ever, as a young man or in my military career. And I was able to perform all of the duties of a Navy SEAL without back squatting heavy. Okay? And that's generally things that are more challenging than regular life. So my point is, I feel really confident saying that if you don't squat heavy, you're going to be just fine for life. I feel really confident saying that. Because take the heavy squat out. Now, what you're not saying is you can go below parallel because you just said you'd like to do the limited equipment option. And that has dumbbell squats, Bulgarian split squats, box step ups, lunges, what am I forgetting? Kickstand squats, whatever with a pair of dumbbells. I'm not just talking about, but we can't do a heavy loaded back squat. So if you were only able to do the stuff that I just mentioned right there, and you push yourself appropriately hard with a pair of 35s, a pair of 50s, whatever it is, and you developed as much below parallel leg strength with those dumbbells, I honestly can't think of anything in the real life that you wouldn't be just fine for. And you would be really fit most of the time. You'd be great. So I don't think you have any issues there. And actually, we had another member, Prowl, chimed in with a really good idea. Have you tried a belt squat? That's a cool idea. And I didn't think of that. It's a great idea. That might be something worth trying as well, on top of just a limited equipment option. Belt squat's kind of a unique setup, but if one crosses your path, it's worth it. But yeah, the limited equipment option, my friend, you'll be good to go. More than good to go. Okay, let's go to the questions from the BTWB squad. From Dan W. Do I need to know my 1 rep max? I found the deadlift workout last week was a bit on the easy side. Okay, so that was percentage based on a percentage of your 1 rep max. The last time I measured my max deadlift was over a year ago, and I don't have enough weight at home to retest it. Interesting. Does that matter? I could just assume it's gone from 150 kilograms to 160 kilograms and adjust the percentage. Or do I need to buy more 20 kilogram plates or go to a global gym to retest? Okay, so here's the word, need. Do you need to know your 1 rep max? No, you don't. It'd be great if you did, because that would mean that you have enough plates available to you to push yourself to your limit of your deadlift, your back squat, whatever it happened to be. So if we're talking about budget's not an issue, and you can buy more plates that will meet you to the limits of your capacity, buy more plates. Cool, awesome. What you could also do, if you've got obviously less plates than needed for a true 1 rep, is whatever amount of plates that you have, do one of the classic rep ranges. Do you have enough plates to do an actual 3 rep max, or a 5 rep max, or a 10 rep max, or something like that? It sounds like you do. What you could do is find one of those true maxes, and then although it's not perfect, you could put that data into BTWB or the good old Googles or whatever, and there are conversions out there that if you give them what your 5 rep max is, it will give you, based upon data, what they estimate your 1 rep max is. So you could absolutely do it that way. So I would check that out as well. Shauna K. So I listened to the new Very Not Random episode in which Adrian Bosman and I got on a tangent in the beginning about shows, and we talked about Severance. And he likes Severance, and I'm absolutely done and over Severance, and I just find it, I can't do it. Did I finish it? No, I didn't finish it. So I just gave up somewhere in the 2nd season. It was just so odd and hard to follow to myself. My wife stuck with it. She just felt committed, like she put in the time, and so she went all the way to the final episode. When she finished the final episode, I said, "Finish?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Do you know what's going on?" She said, "Nope, not at all." So I think I made a good call not doing it. Okay, from Stuart L. I've had a persistent shoulder injury that is taking a long time to heal. Just about any overhead work is out of the question. How would you suggest scaling workout like this Friday, which is 30 heavy clean and jerks for time? I'm leaning to keeping the weight heavier and just doing cleans. The other option would be to drop the weight a lot, and still do clean and jerks to include, the overhead portion. For this workout, I think the first option is better in line with the spirit of what you're going after. More broadly, do you have any advice on how to think about subbing out pushing with the shoulders movements? Okay, so Stuart, um, first thing is you've said persistent shoulder injury. Do you know what it is? Have you sought out a competent medical professional that works with athletes that can truly figure out what is the problem, what are the steps that should be taken to get it back on track so you don't just stay 75% for the rest of your life? Let's get you back to 100%. That means just not using the shoulder for however long it happens to be. So let's do that first. Now, if you're just saying that for the time being, because you say that you could go overhead, but the load would have to be significantly lighter. I think you're on a good track. So without having you here to ask you in person, if you can do this, this would be my recommendation, because this is what I'm going to do. Because sometimes with the shoulder, pressing in one direction might hurt, pressing in another direction might not. So if you can't press with the shoulder in any direction, then just do the cleans. You'll be fine. Give that shoulder the time it needs to rest. Might your pressing ability go down, while you give it rest? Yes, but you also don't want to press on an injured shoulder and never have the darn thing heal, and then you're just screwed forever. So don't worry about that. So step number 1, if you can't press in any direction, 30 heavy cleans. No one in the world is going to be shortchanged by doing 30 heavy cleans. So great. Now, other thing, can you press in a different direction and have it be pain-free? So for example, I press overhead, pain, not discomfort, pain. That's why I don't go overhead. I can bench press all day long, no pain. Push-ups all day long, no pain. Ring dips, bar dips, bench dips, things like that, all day long, no pain. So that would be one of my best options for you as well. Maybe you do the 30 heavy cleans, and then can you get some pressing in afterwards in something which is not overhead and doesn't cause you pain? Whether it's push-ups, bench press, dips, ring dips, something like that, go ahead and give that a try. And then I think you'd be good to go. And if you wanted, you could do some, are there any other, bro stuff that you could do afterwards? Maybe you can't press overhead, but, you could do some dumbbell kickbacks, some skull crushers or something like that. Maybe that's something you could do to get a little upper arm motion in there, flexion extension of the elbow anyway, and keep you in the game while you give your shoulders time to rest. Okay, final few questions from BTWB. From Alexandra S. Oh, I almost forgot a question, didn't I? These are not all the questions. Darn it. Hold on. I think I forgot a question. All right, I'm going to check this out in a second because I think I forgot one. You talk about how important it is to establish strict pull-up capacity, and I was just curious, if a strict capacity is built and a person never ever does kipping pull-ups, but only does strict for every workout, will their fitness be shortchanged by not doing the kipping or having that a part of their skill set? Cool question. So I think this kind of goes back to, whose question was it before? Was it Stuart? I can't remember. The difference between real and optimal, right? So if we're talking, I'm going to optimize your fitness, make you the most capable superhero of fitness possible, give you the broadest ability to tackle anything that comes your way, the greatest range of capability, then I'm going to want to expose you to the largest number of movements possible, give you the greatest number of skill sets, tools in the toolbox, however you want to say it. And one of those would be kipping. So optimally, you'd be able to do both. Now, there are some people who can't do both for whatever number of reasons. I know plenty of people that, again, they got grouchy shoulders, whatever it happened to be, skiing accident, attacked by a lion, who knows. And strict pull-ups, treat them fine. Kipping? Hurts the shoulder, aggravates it in a bad way. Those people are just going to do strict pull-ups for the rest of their life. Will their fitness be shortchanged? I don't think shortchanged is the right thing to say, but just not optimized, but that's okay. Oh, it was the question about the heavy back squat. Can you still be ferociously fit without a heavy back squat? And the answer was yes. Optimal? No, but yes, possible. Same thing with kipping. I'd love to have you be able to do both. Beautiful upper body pulling movements for both, same range of motion, etc., etc. Um, what's the, and if you just did strict pull-ups every time that a pull-up came up, on those workouts, let's say that you're a little bit slower, right? Because you hit fatigue faster, you don't get the hip drive and momentum, etc., etc. So you break them up more, the clock runs, and your time is a little bit slower. Well, it's not a pull-up every single solitary day, right? I mean, that would be ridiculous programming. So let's say it's twice a week. An upper body pull comes up and you do strict. Well, there's not but then there's, if it's a couplet, there's one other movement in there. If it's a triplet, there's two movements in there that aren't pull-ups. If there's four, like whatever it is, so you could haul the mail and push the pace and do everything you need on the other movements that aren't pull-ups. You get to the pull-up bar, you break them up as needed. Slam the gas as best as you safely can on the other movements. It's you're doing Helen. Kettlebell swings, pull-ups, and a 400-meter run. You run that 400 meters like your family's being held hostage. You come, which is first? Now I'm losing it. You swing the kettlebell, you go right to the bell, you start swinging. You're just out of breath, you hit it so hard. You get to the pull-up bar, and now instead of kipping, you do the 12 pull-ups strict, and instead of it's 12 unbroken, now it's 3 sets of 4 because you're winded. And then once you hop off that pull-up bar, you run like you're shot out of a cannon again. You go right to the kettlebell swings, and then you have to break the pull-ups up again. Man, you're still going to be really, really fit doing that. And if pull-ups come up twice a week, you only have to do that on 2 out of the 5 days, and the other 3 days you're burning down everything. So you're good to go. What does the kipping motion give to you? First of all, it's more engaging of your central nervous system. It's far more technically complicated. This is beautiful firing and sequencing of events in your body that have to happen for this beautiful motion to occur. And so doing complex things is good for you. And so there's benefit there. And then the other thing, just quite simply, is you have the opportunity to do the same amount of work, if it's 12 pull-ups or whatever, or 100 pull-ups, generally speaking for most people, in a shorter period of time. Same amount of work, shorter period of time, higher power output, generally speaking, a good thing. So there's absolutely value there. So it just depends upon why is that person not kipping. Shoulder pain, don't kip. You'll be fine for the rest of your life, or whatever it happens to be. Just a conscious choice, hey, you're free to do whatever you want. You want to do it? Do it. Great. But ideally both. But yeah, you can be really fit and just do strict pull-ups. You're going to be good to go. Ooh, Stephen G. Here we go. Stephen G. My go-to podcasts. I've got all kinds of podcasts that I like to listen to, and I'm not going to give the names for a bunch of them because just in today's world, people are so crazy. I do generally try to listen to podcasts on like both sides of the aisle, if you will, because I find it fascinating. I'm a bit of a finance nerd as well, so I like those things. But if I mention podcasts on the left or the right, and somebody's it's just, people are just so weird. They're so weird with having their camps, and if anybody's in the other camp, they're the enemy. So yeah, I listen to podcasts all the time. I don't really listen to too much music. I listen to podcasts all the time. But I will give one name, and I don't know if this is a polarizing name or not. It's not intended to be. This is almost like people say like the hero that we never knew that we needed. You know who I've been really impressed with, because depending on whose podcast I listen to, most people, if they have their podcast, they're in a bit of an echo chamber, whether it's fitness, whether it's politics, whether it's whatever it happens to be. But there's a gentleman that recently has just been, God bless the algorithm, on YouTube primarily, popping into my feed, and I've been listening to him, and I've been like, so far, this is really good. I haven't been listening to him forever, so I don't know if this is how he is. I don't know if it'll change next week, and maybe feel free in the comments for people to tell me if I'm crazy or not. Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith. And I'm not a big sports guy, right? So I know that he's a commentator in sports. And I don't know if he's beloved or hated as a commentator in sports because I don't listen to any of his stuff. But he has had guests on his program. I think he calls himself, what is it he calls? I heard him the other day. He calls himself a left-leaning centrist is what he says. But man, he's had guests on his show, left, right, and center. And that, as far as I'm concerned, is what a good conversation is supposed to look like. You're supposed to bring on a wide range of people with diverse viewpoints and perspectives and just hear them out and learn from them and like actually be open to a discussion that might be really contradictory to what you believe. And I find people that do that wonderful. I mean, I think that's how true learning happens. But I find it's harder and harder to find people, podcasts, shows, or whatnot that actually really do that. Almost everybody has their agenda, whatever it is, and that they've got their agenda. But I have to say, recently, for the time being, I've been really enjoying Stephen A. Smith's content. And again, he's been wonderful. The hero that I didn't know that we needed, but he's been crushing it. So I hope he continues to do that because I think that's what. What was Melanie saying? He's definitely polarizing, but I listen to him all the time. I don't always agree, but I do listen. I agree with that. I don't always agree with him, but I do listen. And I appreciate, and like I said, I'm not very well versed in him. So maybe I'm bringing up something that people's like, I can't believe it. Don't you know that 2 years ago he had, I don't know. Sorry, I didn't listen to him 2 years ago. But man, he's had on a range of guests, and I appreciate that. You know, I like the fact that there's been a range of guests on there because it's cool and it's refreshing. And like I said, I don't think it's as common as it should to actually have like a discourse. But polarizing, he definitely has his views for sure. But so far so good. So for the time being, I'm enjoying him. Chris Yu. How necessary is having access to an air bike? It comes up a good amount in workouts, but I don't have one. If I'm doing rowing for all the bike and row workouts, am I shortchanging my fitness? Okay, so this question was tied to another question that was sent to me, and the question was if I wanted to buy an air bike, what type of bike would I recommend? So first of all, let's get into the bike that I would recommend. If we're just oversimplifying it down to an air bike, like a fan bike, like the Rogue Echo bike or the Assault bike, let's put those in one camp. And then in the other camp, like the Concept 2 Bike Erg, if I had to choose between Assault bike, Echo bike, or the Concept 2 Bike Erg, I would choose the Assault bike or the Echo bike. That would be the one that I would choose. I've got the Rogue Echo bike in my garage, and I have the Concept 2 Bike Erg in my garage. And it's just me, it's personal preference. You're not going to be shortchanged with either one of them, so let's go ahead and get that out of the way first. But if I could only have one, I would choose the Assault bike or the Echo bike. And I will also say this. Now, first of all, much like talking about the podcast a second ago, right? Like, you got to divulge any interest, you being sponsored by somebody. Like, do you have a hidden agenda? So I'm good friends with the folks at Rogue. Have been for a while. They've been very kind to me. I do work with them. I am not sponsored by Rogue. I am not paid by Rogue to say anything nice by them. I am not a Rogue employee. It is what it is. I had an Assault bike for the longest time, and it treated me very, very well. And then I sold my Assault bike and I purchased a Rogue Echo bike. It's been at least a couple years ago, if not more. That was done of my own free will and volition. And I did that because while the Assault bike was great, it's chain drive and there are some things that like need tightening or they can get loose and make little rattles or whatnot, and it's fine. But just, I don't know, just didn't want that. And I've been on an Echo bike a couple times, and it's got the belt drive and all that, and there's just fewer moving parts, and it just seemed bomb-proof, and like I could give it to my grandkids one day. And so I sold the Assault bike, got the Echo bike. Yeah, one feels a little bit different than the other, but they're close enough for government work. They're close enough for fitness to be totally irrelevant. And so yeah, if I had to choose that one, I would choose the Echo bike. It's just me personally. And then to get to Chris's question, how necessary is having access to an air bike? It comes up a good amount of my workouts, but I don't have one. If I'm doing rowing for all the biking and rowing workouts, am I shortchanging my fitness? No, you're not. And I would just say this kind of goes with a theme that we've had going through this podcast today, which is the difference between what's optimal and what's real. What's optimal? You have unlimited funds, and you have unlimited space in your garage gym to put every conceivable toy, barbell, GHD. You can hang a 15-foot rope. The sky's the limit. It's great. That's cool. That's actually really cool if you have that. Like, not even hating on you. I'm happy for you. But that's not everybody's situation. That would be optimal. What's real? I got a limited space. I got a limited budget. I can't have all the toys. What do I have to do? Okay, so you don't have a bike, you just have a rower. And so when the workout calls for running, you're going to take off and run because you got planet Earth. And when the workout calls for rowing, you're going to row because you got a rower. When the workout calls for an air bike, now it's decision time. So when it calls for an air bike, you've got a couple decisions that you can make. You can swap it out for the row. We always give that option there. Or if you look at something like the limited equipment option that day, we assume that they don't have a bike or a rower, so there'll be a running option. So what I would do for you, Chris, first of all, you're not shortchanging yourself. You're going to be okay. I would go back and forth each time. Air bike comes up. One time, choose the rowing option. Next time, choose the limited equipment run option, and then just go back and forth like that, and you will be totally good to go. You'll be. Melanie says, running always wins, my friend. I'm right there with you. So, yep, that should do it for us. Did I miss anything today? I feel like I did. Goal times, open, test 13, help, I can't squat, 1 rep max, scaling, kipping. No, I think we're good. Okay. So, there will not be an Ask Me Anything next week. And I'll post this, hopefully I'll remember to post this in the Facebook group and the BTW squad. Family's taking a vacation. We can thank my wife for that. As a dedicated workaholic, I would never schedule a family vacation. So she's the one to make sure that we do that a couple times a year. So we're taking off on a family vacation next week, and so there won't be an Ask Me Anything. And that will be that. All right, well, enjoy the rest of your day. It's a Thursday for most of us. It's a rest day. Enjoy it, and I will see you online.